The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Translated into English prose from the original Sanskrit text by Pratap Chandra Roy C.I.E. This free ebook has been downloaded from holybooks.com. Virata Parva. Section 38, Virata Parva continued. Vaisampayana said, having issued forth from the city, the dauntless son of Virata addressed his charioteers saying, "Proceed whither the Kurus are. Defeating the assembled Kurus who have come hither from desire of victory and quickly rescuing my kin from them, I will return to the capital." At these words of the prince, the son of Pandu urged those excellent steeds. And endued with the speed of the wind and decked with necklaces of gold, those steeds urged by that lion among men, seemed to fly through the air. And they had not proceeded far when those smiters of foes, Dhananjaya and the son of Matsya, sighted the army of the powerful Kurus. And proceeding towards the cemetery, they came upon the Kurus and beheld their army arrayed in order of battle. And that large army of theirs looked like the vast sea or a forest of innumerable trees moving through the sky. And then was seen, O best among the Kurus, the dust raised by that moving army which reached the sky and obstructed the sight of all creatures. And beholding that mighty host abounding in elephants, horses and chariots, and protected by Karna and Duryodhana and Kripa and Santanu's son, and that intelligent and great bowman Drona, with his son Aswathaman, the son of Virata, agitated with fear and the bristles on his body standing on their ends, thus spake unto Partha, "I dare not fight with the Kurus. See, the bristles on my body have stood on their ends. I am incapable of battling with this countless host of the Kurus, abounding in the heroic warriors, that are extremely fierce and difficult of being vanquished even by the celestials. I do not venture to penetrate into the army of the Bharatas consisting of terrible bowmen and abounding in horses and elephants and cars and foot soldiers and banners. My mind is too much perturbed by the very sight of the foe on the field of battle on which stand Drona and Bhishma, and Kripa and Karna, and Vaivangseti and Aswathaman, and Vikarna and Somadeti and Vahlika, and the heroic King Duryodhana also, that foremost of car warriors, and many other splendid bowmen, all skilled in battle. My hairs have stood on their ends, and I am fainting with fear at the very sight of these smiters, the Kurus arrayed in order of battle." Vaisampayana continued, and the low-minded and foolish Uta, out of folly alone, began to bewail his fate in the presence of the high-spirited Arjuna disguised as his charioteer in these words, "My father hath gone out to meet the Trigatas, taking with him his whole army, leaving me in the empty city. There are no troops to assist me. Alone and a mere boy, who has not undergone much exercise in arms, I am unable to encounter these innumerable warriors all skilled in weapons. Do thou therefore, O Vrihanala, cease to advance." Vrihanala said, "Why dost thou look so pale through fear and enhance the joy of thy foes? As yet thou hast done nothing on the field of battle with the enemy. It was thou that hadst ordered me, saying, 'Take me towards the Kauravas.' I will therefore take thee thither, where those innumerable flags are. I will certainly take thee, O mighty armed one, into the midst of the hostile Kurus, prepared to fight as they are for the kin like hawks for meat. I would do this, even if I regarded them to have come hither for battling for a much higher stake, such as the sovereignty of the earth. Having at the time of setting out talked before both men and women so highly of thy manliness, why wouldst thou desist from the fight? If thou shouldst return home without recapturing the kin, brave men and even women, when they meet together, will laugh at thee in derision. As regards myself, I cannot return to the city without having rescued the kin, applauded as I have been so highly by the Sirindri in respect of my skill in driving cars. It is for those praises by the Sirindri and for those words of thine also that I have come. Why should I not therefore give battle to the Kurus? As regards thyself, be thou still. Uta said, "Let the Kurus rob the Matsyas of all their wealth. Let men and women of Vrihanala laugh at me. Let my kin perish, let the city be a desert. Let me stand exposed before my father. Still there is no need of battle." Vaisampayana continued, saying this, that much affrighted Prince decked in earrings jumped down from his car and throwing down his bow and arrows began to flee, sacrificing honor and pride. Vrihanala however exclaimed, "This is not the practice of the brave, this flight of a Kshatriya from the field of battle. Even death in battle is better than flight from fear." Having said this, Dhananjaya, the son of Kunti, coming down from that excellent car, ran after that prince, thus running away, his own long braid and pure red garments fluttering in the air. And some soldiers, not knowing that it was Arjuna who was thus running with his braid fluttering in the air, burst out into laughter at the sight. And beholding him thus running, the Kurus began to argue, "Who is this person thus disguised like fire concealed in ashes? He is partly a man and partly a woman. Although bearing a neuter form, he yet resembleth Arjuna. His are the same head and neck, and his the same arms like unto a couple of maces. And this one's gait also is like unto his. He can be none else than Dhananjaya. As Indra is among the celestials, so Dhananjaya is among men. Who else in this world than Dhananjaya would alone come against us?" Virata left a single son of his in the empty city. He had come out from childishness and not from true heroism. It is Uta who must have come out of the city, having without doubt made as a charioteer Arjuna, the son of Pritha, now living in disguise. It seems that he is now flying away in panic at sight of our army. And without doubt Dhananjaya runneth after him to bring him back. Vaisampayana continued, beholding the disguised son of Pandu, the Kauravas of Bharata, began to indulge in these surmises, but they could not come to any definite conclusion. Meanwhile Dhananjaya, hastily pursuing the retreating Uta, seized him by the hair within 100 steps. And seized by Arjuna, the son of Virata began to lament most woefully like one in great affliction and said, "Listen, O good Vrihanala, O thou of handsome waist. Turn thou quickly the course of the car. He that liveth meeteth with prosperity. I will give thee 100 coins of pure gold and 8 lapis lazuli of great brightness set with gold, and 1 chariot furnished with a golden flagstaff and drawn by excellent steeds, and also 10 elephants of infuriate prowess. Do thou, O Vrihanala, set me free." Vaisampayana continued, thus addressed, that tiger among men laughingly dragged Uta, who was almost deprived of his senses and who was uttering these words of lamentation towards the car. And the son of Pritha then addressed the affrighted prince who had nearly lost his senses, saying, "If, O chastiser of foes, thou dost not venture to fight with the enemy, come thou and hold the reins of the steeds as I fight with the foe. Protected by the might of my arms, penetrate thou yon formidable and invincible array of cars guarded by heroic and mighty warriors. Fear not, O chastiser of foes. Thou art a Kshatriya and the foremost of royal princes. Why dost thou, O tiger among men, succumb in the midst of the foe? I shall surely fight with the Kurus and recover the kin, penetrating into this formidable and inaccessible array of cars. Be thou my charioteer, O best of men, I will fight with the Kurus." Thus speaking unto Uta, the son of Virata, Vibhatsu, heretofore unconquered in battle, for a while comforted him. And then the son of Pritha, that foremost of smiters, raised on the car that fainting and reluctant prince stricken with fear. Thus ends the 38th section in the Guharana Parva of the Virata Parva. Section 39, Guharana Parva continued. Vaisampayana said, beholding that bull among men seated on the car in the habit of a person of the third sex, driving toward the cemetery, having taken the flying Uta up, All the great warriors of the Kurus with Bhishma and Drona at their head became affrighted at heart, suspecting the comer to be Dhananjaya. And seeing them so dispirited and marking also the many wonderful portents that foremost of all wielders of arms, the preceptor Drona, son of Bharadwaja, said, "Violent and hot are the winds that blow, showering gravels in profusion. The sky also is overcast with a gloom of ashy hue. The clouds present the strange sight of being dry and waterless. Our weapons also of various kinds are coming out of their cases. The jackals are yelling hideously affrighted at the conflagrations on all sides. The horses too are shedding tears and our banners are trembling though moved by none. Such being the inauspicious indications seen, a great danger is at hand. Stay ye with vigilance. Protect ye your own selves and array the troops in order of battle. Stand ye, expecting a terrible slaughter, and guard ye well the kin. This mighty bowman, this foremost of all wielders of weapons, this hero that hath come in the habit of a person of the third sex, is the son of Pritha. There is no doubt of this." Then addressing Bhishma, the preceptor continued, "O offspring of the Ganges, apparelled as a woman, this is Kirithi called after a tree, the son of the enemy of the mountains, and having on his banner the sign of devastator of the gardens of Lanka's lord. Vanquishing us he will surely take away the kin today. This chastiser of foes is the valiant son of Pritha surnamed Savyashachin. He doth not desist from conflict even with the gods and demons combined. Put to great hardship in the forest he cometh in wrath. Taught by even Indra himself, he is like unto Indra in battle. Therefore ye Kauravas, I do not see any hero who can withstand him. It is said that the Lord Mahadeva himself, disguised in the attire of a hunter, was gratified by this son of Pritha in battle on the mountains of Himavat." Hearing these words, Karna said, "You always censure us by speaking of the virtues of Falguna. Arjuna however is not equal to even a full 16th part of myself or Duryodhana." And Duryodhana said, "If this be Partha, or Radeya, then my purpose hath already been fulfilled, for then O king, if traced out, the Pandavas shall have to wander for 12 years again. Or if this one be any other person in a eunuch's garb, I will soon prostrate him on the earth with keen-edged arrows." Vaisampayana continued, "The son of Dhritarashtra, O chastiser of foes." Having said this, Bhishma and Drona and Kripa and Drona's son all applauded his manliness. Thus ends the 39th section in the Guharana Parva of the Virata Parva. Section 40, Guharana Parva continued. Vaisampayana said, having reached that Sami tree and having ascertained Virata's son to be exceedingly delicate and inexperienced in battle, Partha addressed him, saying, "Enjoined by me Uta, quickly take down from this tree some boughs that are there. For these boughs of thine are unable to bear my strength, my heavy weight when I shall grind down horses and elephants and the stretch of my arms when I seek to vanquish the foe. Therefore O Bhuminjaya, climb thou up this tree of thick foliage, for in this tree are tied the bows and arrows and banners and excellent coats of mail of the heroic sons of Pandu, viz., Yudhishthira and Bhima and Vibhatsu and the twins. There also is that bow of great energy, the Gandiva of Arjuna, which singly is equal to many thousands of other bows and which is capable of extending the limits of a kingdom. Large like a palmyra tree, able to bear the greatest stress, the largest of all weapons, capable of obstructing the foe, handsome and smooth, and broad without a knot, and adorned with gold, it is stiff and beautiful in make and bear it the heaviest weight. And the other bows also that are there, of Yudhishthira and Bhima and Vibhatsu and the twins, are equally mighty and tough." Thus ends the 40th section in the Guharana Parva of the Virata Parva. Section 41, Guharana Parva continued. Uta said, "It hath been hard by us that a corpse is tied in this tree. How can I therefore, being a prince by birth, touch it with my hands. Born in the Kshatriya order and the son of a great king, and always observant of mantras and vows, it is not becoming of me to touch it. Why shouldst thou, O Vrihanala, make me a polluted and unclean bearer of corpses, by compelling me to come in contact with a corpse? Vrihanala said, Thou shalt, O king of kings, remain clean and unpolluted. Do not fear, there are only boss in this tree and not corpses. Heir to the king of the Matsyas and born in a noble family, why should I, O prince, make thee do such a reproachable deed? Vaisampayana said, thus addressed by Partha, Virata's son, decked in earrings, alighted from the car and climbed up that Sami tree reluctantly. And staying on the car, Dhananjaya, that slayer of enemies, said unto him, Speedily bring thou down those boss from the top of the tree. And cutting off their wrappings first and then the ropes with which they were tied, the prince beheld the Gandiva there along with 4 other boss. And as they were united, the splendor of those boss, radiant as the sun, began to shine with great effulgence like unto that of the planets about the time of their rising. And beholding the forms of those boss, so like unto sighing snakes, he became afflicted with fear, and in a moment the bristles of his body stood on their ends. And touching those large boss of great splendor, Virata's son, O king, thus spake unto Arjuna. Thus ends the 41st section in the Guharana Parva of the Virata Parva. Section 42, Guharana Parva continued. Purta said, To what warrior of fame doth this excellent bow belong, on which are 100 golden bosses and which hath such radiant ends? Whose is this excellent bow of good sides and easy hold, on the staff of which shine golden elephants of such brightness? Whose is this excellent bow, adorned with 3 scores of indragopakas of pure gold, placed on the back of the staff at proper intervals? Whose is this excellent bow, furnished with 3 golden suns of great effulgence, blazing forth with such brilliancy? Whose is this beautiful bow which is variegated with gold and gems, and on which are golden insects set with beautiful stones? Whose are these arrows furnished with wing around, numbering 1,000, having golden heads and cased in golden quivers? Who owneth these large shafts, so thick, furnished with vulturine wings whetted on stone, yellowish in hue, sharp-pointed, well-tempered, and entirely made of iron? Whose is this sable quiver, bearing 5 images of tigers, which hold its shafts intermined with boread arrows altogether numbering 10? Whose are these 700 arrows, long and thick, capable of drinking the enemy's blood, and looking like the crescent-shaped moon? Whose are these gold-crested arrows whetted on stones, the lower halves of which are well furnished with wings of the hue of parrot's feather and the upper halves, of well-tempered steel? Whose is this excellent sword, irresistible, and terrible to adversaries, with the mark of a toad on it, and pointed like a toad's head, cased in variegated sheath of tiger skin? Whose is this large sword of excellent blade and variegated with gold and furnished with tinkling bells? Whose is this handsome scimitar of polished blade and golden hilt, manufactured in the country of the Nishadas, irresistible, incapable of being broken? Whose is this sword of polished blade in a scabbard of cowskin? Whose is this beautiful and long sword, sable in hue as the sky, mounted with gold, well-tempered, and cased in a sheath of goatskin? Who owneth this heavy, well-tempered, and broad sword, just longer than the breadth of 30 fingers, polished by constant clash with others' weapons and kept in a case of gold, bright as fire? Whose is this beautiful scimitar of sable blade covered with golden bosses, capable of cutting through the bodies of adversaries, whose touch is as fatal as that of a venomous snake, which is irresistible and exciteth the terror of foes? Asked by me, O Vrihanala, do thou answer me truly. Great is my wonder at the sight of all these excellent objects. Thus ends the 42nd section in the Guharana Parva of the Virata Parva. Section 43, Guharana Parva continued. Vrihanala said, that about which thou hast first enquired is Arjuna's bow of worldwide fame, called Gandiva, capable of devastating hostile hosts. Embellished with gold, this Gandiva, the highest and largest of all weapons, belonged to Arjuna. Alone equal unto 100,000 weapons and always capable of extending the confines of kingdoms, it is with this that Partha vanquisheth in battle both men and celestials. Worshipped ever by the gods, the Danavas and the Gandharvas, and variegated with excellent colors, this large and smooth bow is without a knot or stain anywhere. Shiva held it first for 1,000 years. Afterwards Prajapati held it for 503 years. After that Sakra, for 580 years. And then Soma held it for 500 years. And after that Varana held it for 100 years. And finally Partha, surnamed Swetavahana, held it for 65 years. Endued with great energy and of high celestial origin, this is the best of all bows. Adored among gods and men, it hath a handsome form. Partha obtained this beautiful bow from Varuna. This other bow of handsome sides and golden handle is Bhima's, with which that son of Pritha, that chastiser of foes, had conquered the whole of the eastern regions. This other excellent bow of beautiful shape, adorned with images of Indragopikas, belongeth, O Virata's son, to King Yudhishthira. This other weapon with golden suns of blazing splendor shading a dazzling effulgence around belongeth to Nakula. And this bow adorned with golden images of insects and set also with gems and stones belongeth to that son of Madri, who is called Sahadeva. These winged arrows, 1,000 in number, sharp as razors and destructive as the poison of snakes, belong, O Virata's son, to Arjuna. When shooting them in battle against foes, these swift arrows blaze forth more brilliantly and become inexhaustible. And these long and thick shafts, resembling the lunar crescent in shape, keen-edged and capable of thinning the enemy's ranks, belong to Bhima. And this quiver bearing 5 images of tigers, full of yellowish shafts whetted on stone and furnished with golden wings, belong to Nakula. This is the quiver of the intelligent son of Madri, with which he had conquered in battle the whole of the western regions. And these arrows, all effulgent as the sun, painted all over with various colors and capable of destroying enemies by thousands, are those of Sahadeva. And these short and well-tempered and thick shafts, furnished with long feathers and golden heads and consisting of 3 knots, belong to King Yudhishthira. And this sword with blade long and carved with the image of a toad and head shaped as a toad's mouth, strong and irresistible, belongeth to Arjuna. Cased in a sheath of tiger skin, of long blade, handsome and irresistible, and terrible to adversaries, this sword belongeth to Bhimasena. Of excellent blade and cased in a well-painted sheath and furnished with a golden hilt, this handsome sword belongeth to the wise Pandava Yudhishthira the just. And this sword of strong blade, irresistible and intended for various excellent modes of fight and cased in a sheath of goat skin, belongeth to Nakula. And this huge scimitar, cased in a sheath of cow skin, strong and irresistible, belongeth to Sahadeva. Thus ends the 43rd section in the Guharana Parva of the Virata Parva. Section 44, Guharana Parva continued. Uta said, indeed these weapons adorned with gold, belonging to the light-handed and high-souled Partha, look exceedingly beautiful. But where are that Arjuna, the son of Pritha, and Yudhishthira of the Kuru race, and Nakula and Sahadeva, and Bhimasena, the sons of Pandu? Having lost their kingdom at dice, the high-souled Pandavas, capable of destroying all foes, are no longer heard of. Where also is Draupadi, the princess of Panchala, famed as the gem among women, who followed the sons of Pandu after their defeat at dice to the forest? Arjuna said, I am Arjuna, called also Partha. Thy father's courtier is Yudhishthira and thy father's cook Vallava is Bhimasena, the groom of horses is Nakula, and Sahadeva is in the cowpen? And know thou that the Sirindri is Draupadi, for whose sake the Kichhekas have been slain. Utthara said, I would believe all this if thou canst enumerate the 10 names of Partha, previously heard by me. Arjuna said, I will, O son of Virata, tell thee my 10 names. Listen thou and compare them with what thou hadst heard before. Listen to them with close attention and concentrated mind. They are Arjuna, Fulguna, Jishmu, Kiritin, Swetavahana, Vibhatsu, Vijaya, Krishna, Savyaschin and Dhananjaya. Uta said, Tell me truly, why art thou called Vijaya and why Swetavahana? Why art thou named Krishna and why Arjuna and Falguna and Jishnu and Kiritin and Vibhatsu, and for what art thou Dhananjaya and Savyaschin? I have heard before about the origin of the several names of that hero and can put faith in thy words if thou canst tell me all about them. Arjuna said, They called me Dhananjaya because I lived in the midst of wealth, having subjugated all the countries and taking away their treasures. They called me Vijaya because when I go out to battle with invincible kings, I never return from the field without vanquishing them. I am called Swetavahana because when battling with the foe, white horses decked in golden armor are always yoked unto my car. They call me Falguna because I was born on the breast of the Himavat, on a day when the constellation Uta Fulguna was on the ascendant. I am named Kiritin from a diadem, resplendent like the sun, having been placed of old on my head by Indra during my encounter with the powerful Danavas. I am known as Vibhatsu among gods and men, for my never having committed a detestable deed on the battlefield. And since both of my hands are capable of drawing the Gandiva, I am known as Savyaschin among gods and men. They call me Arjuna because my complexion is very rare within the 4 boundaries of the earth and because also my acts are always stainless. I am known among human beings and celestials by the name of Jishnu. Because I am unapproachable and incapable of being kept down, and a tamer of adversaries and son of the slayer of Paka. And Krishna, my 10th appellation, was given to me by my father out of affection towards his black-skinned boy of great purity. Vesampayana continued, the son of Virata then, approaching nearer saluted Partha and said, My name is Bhuminjaya, and I am also called Uta. It is by good luck, O Partha, that I behold thee. Thou art welcome, O Dhananjaya. O thou with red eyes and arms that are mighty and each like unto the trunk of an elephant, it behoveth thee to pardon what I said unto thee from ignorance. And as wonderful and difficult have been the feats achieved by thee before, my fears have been dispelled, and indeed the love I bear to thee is great. Thus ends the 44th section in the Guharana Parva of the Virata Parva. Section 45, Guharana Parva continued. Uta said, O hero, mounting on this large car with myself as driver, which division of the hostile army wouldst thou penetrate? Commanded by thee, I would drive thee thither. Arjuna said, I am pleased with thee, O tiger among men. Thou hast no cause of fear. I will rout all thy foes in battle, O great warrior. And O thou of mighty arms, be at thy ease. Accomplishing great and terrible feats in the melee, I will fight with thy force. Tie quickly all those quivers to my car and take from among those a sword of polished blade and adorned with gold. Vesampayana continued, hearing these words of Arjuna, Uta cast off all inactivity. And he speedily alighted from the tree bringing with him Arjuna's weapons. Then Arjuna addressed him saying, Yes, I will fight with the Kurus and recover thy kin. Protected by me, the top of this car will be to thee as a citadel. The passages and alleys and other divisions of this car will be the streets and edifices of that fortified city. These, my arms, will be its ramparts and gateways. This treble pole and my quiver will constitute defensive works inaccessible to the foe. This, my banner single and grand, will it not alone be equal unto those of thy city? This my bowstring will constitute the catapults and cannons for vomiting forth missiles on the besieging host. My excited wrath will make that fortress formidable, and the clatter of my car wheels, will it not resemble the kettledrums of thy capital? Ridden by myself wielding the Gandiva, this car will be incapable of being vanquished by the hostile host. O son of Virata, let thy fear be dispelled. Purta said, I am no longer afraid of these. I know thy steadiness in battle, which is even like unto that of Kesava or Indra himself. But reflecting on this, I am continually bewildered. Foolish as I am incapable of arriving at certain conclusion. By what distressful circumstances could a person of such handsome limbs and auspicious signs become deprived of manhood? Indeed thou seemest to me to be Mahadeva or Indra or the chief of the Gandharvas, dwelling in the guise only of one of the third sex. Arjuna said, I tell thee truly that I am only observing this vow for a whole year agreeable to the behest of my elder brother. O thou of mighty arms, I am not truly one of the neuter sex, but I have adopted this vow of eunuchism from subservience to another's will and from desire of religious merit. O Prince, know me now to have completed my vow. Purta said, Thou hast conferred a great favor on me today, for I now find that my suspicion was not altogether unfounded. Indeed such a person as thou, O best of men, cannot be of the neuter sex. I have now an ally in battle. I can now fight with the celestials themselves. My fears have been dispelled. What shall I do? Command me now. Trained in driving cars by a learned preceptor I will, O bull among men, hold the reins of thy horses that are capable of breaking the ranks of hostile cars. Know me, O bull among men, to be as competent a charioteer as Daruka of Vasudeva or Matali of Sakra. The horse that is yoked unto the right-hand pole of thy car and whose hoofs, as they light on the ground, are scarcely visible when running, is like unto Sugriva of Krishna. This other handsome horse, the foremost of his race, that is yoked unto the left pole, I regard equal in speed to Meghapushpa. This third beautiful horse, clad in golden mail, yoked unto the rear pole on the left, I regard equal in speed to Sivya but superior in strength. And this fourth horse, yoked to the rear pole on the right, is regarded as superior to Valahaka in speed and strength. This car is worthy of bearing on the field of battle a bowman like thee, and thou also art worthy of fighting on this car. This is what I think. Vaisampayana continued, then Arjuna, endued with great energy, took off the bracelets from his arms and wore on his hands a pair of beautiful gloves embroidered with gold. And he then tied his black and curling locks with a piece of white cloth. And seated on that excellent car with face turned to the east, the mighty armed hero, purifying his body and concentrating his soul, recalled to his mind all his weapons. And all the weapons came and addressing the royal son of Partha, said, We are here, O illustrious one. We are thy servants, O son of Indra. And bowing unto them, Partha received them unto his hands and replied unto them saying, Dwell ye all in my memory. And obtaining all his weapons, the hero looked cheerful. And quickly stringing his bow, the Gandiva he twanged it. And the twang of that bow was as loud as the collision of two mighty bulls. And dreadful was the sound that filled the earth, and violent was the wind that blew on all sides. And thick was the shower of fallen meteors, and all sides were enveloped in gloom. And the birds began to totter in the skies, and large trees began to shake. And loud as the burst of the thunder, the Kurus knew from that sound that it was Arjuna that drew with his hands the string of his best of bows from his car. And Uta said, Thou, O best of Pandavas, art alone. These mighty car warriors are many. How wilt thou vanquish in battle all these that are skilled in every kind of weapons? Thou, O son of Kunti, art without a follower, while the Kauravas have many. It is for this, O thou of mighty arms, that I stay beside thee, stricken with fear. Bursting out into loud laughter, Partha said unto him, "Be not afraid. O hero, what friendly follower had I while fighting with the mighty Gandharvas on the occasion of the Ghoshayatra? Who was my ally while engaged in the terrific conflict at Khandava against so many celestials and Danavas? Who was my ally when I fought on behalf of the Lord of the Celestials against the mighty Nivatakavachas and the Polamas? And who was my ally, O child, while I encountered in battle innumerable kings at the Swayamvara to the princess of Panchala? Trained in arms by the preceptor Drona, by Sakra and Vice Ravana and Yama and Varuna and Agni and Kripa and Krishna of Madhu's race, and by the wielder of the Pinaka, Siva, why shall I not fight with these? Drive thou my car speedily, and let thy heart's fever be dispelled." Thus ends the 45th section in the Guharana Parva of the Virata Parva. Section 46, Guharana Parva continued. Vaisampayana said, making Uta his charioteer and circumambulating the Sami tree, the son of Pandu set out taking all his weapons with him. And that mighty car warrior set out with Uta as the driver of his car, having taken down that banner with the lion's figure and deposited it at the foot of the Sami tree. And he hoisted on that car his own golden banner bearing the figure of an ape with a lion's tail, which was a celestial illusion contrived by Viswakarman himself. For as soon, indeed, as he had thought of that gift of Agni, then the latter, knowing his wish, ordered those superhuman creatures that usually sat there to take their place in that banner. And furnished with a beautiful flag of handsome make, with quivers attached to it and adorned with gold, that excellent flagstaff of celestial beauty then quickly fell from the firmament on his car. And beholding that banner arrived on his car, the hero circumambulated it respectfully. And then the ape-bannered Vibhatsu, the son of Kunti, called also Svetavahana, with fingers cased in leathern fences of the iguana skin, and taking up his bow and arrows set out in a northerly direction. And that grinder of force, possessed of great strength, then forcibly blew his large conch shell of thundering sound, capable of making the bristles of force to stand on their ends. And at the sound of that conch, those steeds endued with swiftness dropped down on the ground on their knees. And Uta also, greatly affrighted, sat down on the car. And thereupon the son of Kunti took the reins himself and raising the steeds, placed them in their proper positions. And embracing Uta he encouraged him also, saying, "Fear not, O foremost of princes, thou art O chastiser of force, a Kshatriya by birth. Why, O tiger among men, dost thou become so dispirited in the midst of force? Thou must have heard before the blare of many conches and the note of many trumpets and the roar also of many elephants in the midst of ranks arrayed for battle. Why art thou therefore so dispirited and agitated and terrified by the blare of this conch, as if thou wert an ordinary person?" Uta said, "Heard have I the blare of many a conch and many a trumpet and the roar of many an elephant stationed in battle array, but never have I heard before the blare of such conch. Nor have I ever seen a banner like this. Never before have I heard also the twang of a bow such as this. Truly, sir, with the blare of this conch, the twang of this bow, the superhuman cries of the creatures stationed on this banner and the rattle of this car, my mind is greatly bewildered. My perceptions of the directions also is confused and my heart is painfully afflicted. The whole firmament seemeth to me to have been covered by this banner and everything seemeth to be hidden from my view. My ears also have been deafened by the twang of the Gandiva." Arjuna said, "Firmly stand thou on the car, pressing thy feet on it, and tightly catch hold of the bridles, for I will blow the conch again." Vaisampayana said, Arjuna then blew his conch again, that conch which filled force with grief and enhanced the joy of friends. And the sound was so loud that it seemed to split hills and mountains and pierce mountain caves and the cardinal points. And Uta once again sat down on the car, clinging to it in fear. and with the blare of the conch and the rattle of the car wheels and the twang of the gandiva, the earth itself seemed to tremble. And beholding Uttar's fright, Dhananjaya began to comfort him again. Meanwhile, Drona said, from the rattle of the car, and from the manner in which the clouds have enveloped the sky and the earth itself trembles, this warrior can be none else than Savyaschin. Our weapons do not shine, our steeds are dispirited, and our fires, though fed with fuel, do not flare up. All this is ominous. All our animals are setting up a frightful howl, gazing towards the sun. The crows are perching on our banners. All this is ominous. Yon vultures and kites on our right portend a great danger. That jackal also, running through our ranks, waileth dismally. Lo, it hath escaped unstruck. All this portends a heavy calamity. The bristles also of ye all are on their ends. Surely this forebodes a great destruction of Kshatriyas in battle. Things endued with light are all pale, beasts and birds look fierce, and there are to be witnessed many terrific portents indicative of the destruction of Kshatriyas. And these omens forebode great havoc among ourselves. O king, thy ranks seem to be confounded by these blazing meteors, and thy animals look dispirited and seem to be weeping. Vultures and kites are wheeling all around thy troops. Thou shalt have to repent upon beholding thy army afflicted by Partha's arrows. Indeed, our ranks seem to have been already vanquished, for none is eager to go to fight. All our warriors are of pale faces and almost deprived of their senses. Sending the kin ahead, we should stand here, ready to strike, with all our warriors arrayed in order of battle. Thus ends the 46th section in the Guharana Parva of the Virata Parva. Section 47, Guharana Parva continued. Vaisampayana said, King Duryodhana then, on the field of battle, said unto Bhishma and unto Drona, that tiger among warriors, and unto Kripa, that mighty warrior, these words, both myself and Karna had said this unto the preceptors. I refer to the subject again, for I am not satisfied with having said it once. Even this was the pledge of the sons of Pandu, that if defeated at dice, they would reside to our knowledge in countries and woods for 12 years and one more year unknown to us. That 13th year, instead of being over, is yet running. Vibhatsu therefore, who is still to live undiscovered, hath appeared before us. And if Vibhatsu hath come before the term of exile is at end, the Pandavas shall have to pass another 12 years in the woods. Whether it is due to forgetfulness on their part, induced by desire of dominion, or whether it is a mistake of ours, it behoveth Bhishma to calculate the shortness or excess of the promised period. When an object of desire may or may not be attained, a doubt necessarily attaches to one of the alternatives, and what is decided in one way often ends differently. Even moralists are puzzled in judging of their own acts. As regards ourselves, we have come hither to fight with the Matsyas and to seize their kin stationed towards the north. If meanwhile it is Arjuna that hath come, what fault can attach to us? We have come hither to fight against the Matsyas on behalf of the Trigatas, and as numerous were the acts represented unto us of the oppressions committed by the Matsyas, it was for this that we promised aid to the Trigatas who were overcome with fear. And it was agreed between us that they should first seize, on the afternoon of the 7th lunar day, the enormous wealth of kin that the Matsyas have, and that we should, at sunrise of the 8th day of the moon, seize these kin when the king of the Matsyas would be pursuing those first seized. It may be that the Trigatas are now bringing way the kin, or being defeated, are coming towards us for negotiating with the king of the Matsya. Or, it may be that having driven the Trigatas off, the king of the Matsyas, at the head of this people and his whole army of fierce warriors, appeareth on the scene and advanceth to make night attacks upon us. It may be that some one leader among them, endued with mighty energy, is advancing for vanquishing us, or it may be that the king himself of the Matsyas is come. but be it the king of the Matsyas or Vibhatsu, we must all fight him. Even this hath been our pledge. Why are all these foremost of our warriors, Bhishma and Drona and Kripa and Vikarna and Drona's son, now sitting on their cars, panic-stricken? At present there is nothing better than fighting. Therefore make up your minds. If for the cattle we have seized, an encounter takes place with the divine wielder himself of the thunderbolt, or even with Yama, who is there that will be liable to reach Hastinapur? Pierced by the shafts of the foe, how will the foot soldiers, in flying through the deep forest with their backs on the field, escape with life, when escape for the cavalry is doubtful? Hearing these words of Duryodhana, Karna said, disregarding the preceptor, make all arrangements. He knoweth well the intentions of the Pandavas and striketh terror in our hearts. I see that his affection for Arjuna is very great. Seeing him only coming, he chanted his praises. Make ye such arrangements that our troops may not break. Everything is in confusion for Drona's having only heard the neigh of Arjuna's steeds. Make ye such arrangements that these troops, having come to a distant land in this hot season and in the midst of this mighty forest, may not fall into confusion and be subjugated by the foe. The Pandavas are always the special favorites of the preceptor. The selfish Pandavas have stationed Drona amongst us. Indeed, he betrayed himself by his speech. Who would ever extol a person upon hearing the neigh only of his steeds? Horses always neigh, whether walking or standing. The winds blow at all times, and Indra also always showereth rain. The roar of the clouds may frequently be heard. What hath Partha to do with these, and why is he to be praised for these? All this on Drona's part therefore is due only to either the desire of doing good to Arjuna or to his wrath and hatred towards us. Preceptors are wise and sinless and very kind to all creatures. They, however, should never be consulted at times of peril. It is in luxurious palaces and assemblies and pleasure gardens that learned men, capable of making speeches, seem to be in their place. Performing many wonderful things in the assembly, it is there that learned men find their place, or even there where sacrificial utensils and their proper placing and washing are needed. In a knowledge of the lapses of others, in studying the characters of men, in the science of horses and elephants and cars, in treating the diseases of asses and camels and goats and sheep and kine, in planning buildings and gateways, and in pointing out the defects of food and drink, the learned are truly in their own sphere. Disregarding learned men that extol the heroism of the foe, make ye such arrangements that the foe may be destroyed. Placing the kin securely, array the troops in order of battle. Place guards in proper places so that we may fight the foe. Thus ends the 47th section in the Guharana Parva of the Virata Parva. Section 48, Guharana Parva continued. Karna said, I behold all these blessed ones looking as if alarmed and panic-struck, and unresolved and unwilling to fight. If he that is come is the king of the Matsyas or Vibhatsu, even I will resist him as the banks resist the swelling sea. Shot from my bow these straight and flying arrows, like gliding snakes, are all sure of aim. Discharged by my light hands, these keen-edged arrows furnished with golden wings shall cover Partha all over, like locusts shrouding a tree. Strongly pressed by these winged arrows, the bowstring will cause these, my leathern fences, to produce sounds that will be heard to resemble those of a couple of kettle drums. Having been engaged in ascetic austerities for the last 8 and 5 years, Vibhatsu will strike me but mildly in this conflict, and the son of Kunti, having become a Brahmana endued with good qualities, hath thus become a fit person to quietly receive shafts by thousands shot by me. This mighty bowman is indeed celebrated over the 3 worlds. I too am by no means inferior to Arjuna, that foremost of human beings. With golden arrows furnished with vulturine wings shot on all sides, let the firmament seem today to swarm with fireflies. Slaying Arjuna in battle, I will discharge today that debt difficult of repayments, but promised of old by me unto Dhritarashtra's son. What man is there, even amongst all the gods and the asuras, that will endure to stand in the teeth of the straight arrows shot from my bow? Let my flying arrows, winged and depressed at the middle, present the spectacle of the coursing of the fireflies through the welkin. Hard though he be as Indra's thunderbolt and possessed of the energy of the chief of the celestials, I will surely grind Partha, even as one afflicts an elephant by means of burning brands. A heroic and mighty warrior as he is, and the foremost of all wielders of weapons, I shall seize the unresisting Partha, even like Gadura seizing a snake. Irresistible like fire and fed by the fuel of swords, darts, and arrows, the blazing Pandava fire that consumeth foes, will be extinguished even by myself who am like unto a mighty cloud incessantly dropping an arrowy shower. The multitude of cars I will lead constituting its thunder, and the speed of my horses, the wind in advance. Discharged from my bow, my arrows like venomous snakes will pierce Partha's body, like serpents penetrating through an ant hill. Pierced with well-tempered and straight shafts endued with golden wings and great energy, behold yet today the son of Kunti decked like a hill covered with kamikara flowers. Having obtained weapons from that best of ascetics the son of Jamdagni, I would, relying on their energy, fight with even the celestials. Struck with my javelin, the ape stationed on his banner top shall fall down today on the ground, uttering terrible cries. The firmament will today be filled with the cries of the superhuman creatures stationed in the flagstaff of the foe and afflicted by me, they will fly away in all directions. I shall today pluck up by the roots the long existing dart in Duryodhana's heart by throwing Arjuna down from his car. The Kauravas will today behold Partha with his car broken, his horses killed, his valor gone, and himself sighing like a snake. Let the Kauravas following their own will go away taking this wealth of Kinnaur. If they wish, let them stay on their cars and witness my combat. Thus ends the 48th section in the Guharana Parva of the Virata Parva. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please like and subscribe to be notified of when new audiobooks are uploaded. Thank you for listening and learning. Shanti.